Hello and welcome to the class today. Today I'm going to show you how to paint sunset clouds. It's a multi-step process, but it's not a difficult process. So let me show you what the photograph looks like, and then we'll plan it out from there. I found this photo on Unsplash. Isn't it just amazing? But just look at those beautiful dramatic clouds, and just look how bright the sun looks, even though you can't even see the sun. So that's what we're going to paint today. So usually we start at the back, we work our way forward. So that's why it's a multi-step process. Because we're first going to paint the sky, and then we'll put the clouds in front of the sky. Let's go over to the canvas and paint that sky. So if you're a patron, you can go and download the reference material for the class. There's a full-size original photograph, but then I've also created a tiled template for you, which you can use to reference from, or to sketch it out from as well if you wanted to. If you're a patron, you'll also be able to watch the full tutorial of me doing the sea and so on. In this class, we're just going to be doing the sky today. I'll leave a link to the website below if you want to go and follow the full tutorial. I'm working on a 12 by 16 inch canvas today, which is roughly 400 by 300 millimeters. So the colors that I've packed out for this painting here is white. I've packed out some cadmium yellow. Then I've packed out some crimson to get like an orangey color for there. And I've packed out a phthalo blue, which will give us that. And then to just knock it back and get these kind of browny oranges, I've put out some burnt sienna. And then let's do that. And then for here, I've packed out some raw umber. And that is a little bit of a greeny kind of tinge there and a bit of a greeny tinge there. So I have also just packed out an emerald green. You could maybe use a viridian or a phthalo green as well. And then for here, if you don't have the phthalo blue, you can maybe use a French ultramarine. That would also give you something similar. Yeah, I think that should be all the colors that we need for this guy. So normally what I do is I put the palette down on the screen and I overlay a photo for you so that we can mix these colors. But I think what I want to do today is just a bit of color matching, and we'll just match it here on our reference photo. Hopefully that way we can get accurate colors off the bat. So I think let's start over here. I mean, that's the easiest color. I always like to start with something that's easy to get a quick win. So there's definitely just some titanium white. Let's see, maybe we'll put on just a little bit more. Let's bring some of that down over there. Maybe about so much, because we do need to have some of it for these little areas over here. So we need to mix a little bit more than what we see for the sky. And for that, we'll need some. I've got the lemon yellow here. You can use a cadmium yellow or a cadmium yellow light as well. Just a tiny amount into there. Let's see, what does that color look like? Okay, let's take a look and see. So if I look at this and I compare that, can you see this here is a bit more orangey? So we need to get some red into that. So what I've got here is a crimson red, and alizarin crimson would also work great for there. And I'm going to just the tiniest little speck. Can you see that? that tiniest little speck. I may even just tap off most of that speck as well. Let's first just see what does this crimson do to this yellow that we've got there. Just a little bit of a difference. I can now start adding a little bit more because now I know what's happening. To that color and how much of a difference that red is making, then you can be a bit more accurate with your amounts that you're adding in, because now you've got a feel for the type of because you know how much difference a certain amount of color is going to make. Just like that. I've added too much. Let's split that up. Okay, let's check it out. So I'm not touching the photo yet at this stage. I'm still just getting myself in the vicinity. Once I feel I'm really close, then I'll actually put some down on the print as a final test. Because what happens is, as you're checking this, you've got to try and keep your knife, for a start, you want the paint to be flat on the knife, like this, not humps and bumps of paint, so that you get a nice flat, even color over here. Then you hold it over here and you try and keep your knife at the same angle, or parallel to the print. Okay, we're getting super close now, really close. So I think maybe what I will do is just put a little touch of paint down over there, and I'm checking myself. So let me zoom in on that. So I've put down just that tiny little dot over there. Can you see that? I can see is there, but is lighter. So that's telling me I can add more yellow into the mix. Because we need to not only get the color, we need to get the tonal value right as well. Okay, let's try him. Just a little bit light, eh? Alright, so then we'll be a bit more brave with the yellow. Tiny touch more red in there would be good as well. I think I'm really close to that color now. Really close. I'm gonna stay with that. He's close enough. Great. Let's go to the next color, which is about that over there. So he's definitely got some yellow in him. Okay, let's check that out. Getting reasonably close. I think he's that sort of that color over there. Over there in that vicinity there. That's great. I'll stick with that, because I'm seeing that at several places. I'm seeing it around here, seeing it around there. Yeah, so we can leave him. Let's go to the next one. Yellow, but more red this time. So now we're looking for sort of that color around there. Yeah, it's nice. It seems to be around that color there. See that? I'm in that vicinity there now. So from there, he's definitely going a bit more bluer. Yeah, I'll leave that one there. I like that color. And again, I am still seeing him at different places. It's more like there in that vicinity. Yeah, they're more red this time. And now we need to start introducing a new color. So let's put down our phthalo blue. Just a speck of that in there as well. This is starting to get us towards that, like that kind of a color there now, hey? So we need something in between. So let's split that. We can turn that into that cloud color. And we turn this. Let's get a bit more, what's missing there? A bit more yellow, a bit more red. It was just a little bit heavy on the blue, that guy. So we'll push that guy back towards the red side. Looking good so far. Let's check him. Yeah, that's sort of that color there and that cloud over there. Look at that. It's that cloud color there. So we can maybe get a bit more, get a little bit more red and orangey. Okay, let's check him out. Yeah, it's still too much like that. It's still not quite getting to that orange. So what I'm going to do, before I end up with a pile of paint that's way too big, I'm just going to check where will this color work. Where else would this color work? It's quite nice for the beach around there. Look at that. It's just not quite orange enough for that point. So I'm going to have to be a bit more bold with him. Let's take a good amount of yellow and orange into that, or yellow and crimson, sorry. Yeah, there we go. Just needed to be a bit more bold. Okay, let's bring him down so we can check ourselves. So as I'm mixing these colors, there we go. There we go, look at that. That's that exact color. Just needed to be a little bit more bold with my mixes. Take a look how each of these colors that I've mixed, there's a good difference between that color and that color. A distinct difference between that color and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. You don't want to make your piles of color too close to each other. Otherwise, when you paint them, you don't notice the difference. Alright, so now let's take it this. We said it was heading towards that direction over there, right? Those clouds. If I put that down there, very close to that. Needs just a little bit more blue in it. So let's add a touch more blue. See, this Phthalo blue, mine's incredibly strong, so I have to be super careful not to add too much to it. In other words, it's got a very high chroma, that color. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's looking great there. I'm very happy with that. Maybe slightly lighter. I think that doesn't really matter. They're probably asking why am I mixing the cloud color? Well, I wasn't really. I got this color by accident, so. But we're going to keep all these colors for our clouds and stuff anyway, so Now there I was also just these colors were working over there as well. Because the colors are repeating, there's lots of reflections going on. Okay, so that's fabulous. Let's see, where else do we need? Let's get, say, this color over here. So I think what I'll do now is let's maybe put the palette over there. Let's bring some white down for that. So that's sort of maybe a bit of this in it. Let's see what it looks like. Close, maybe with a bit of this in it. And look at that, it's actually quite a browny color. Yes, very, very close. Very, very close. So it does seem to be needing a little bit of blue in it. So maybe what we can do is let's leave that color for a sec, and let's mix that guy over there, because that'll give us the blue that we need to get this color right. So let's put the palette down there. Let's get some white and some blue in there and see what does it look like. Okay, it's not going to be enough paint. We need a fair amount of the blue. So I'll put a fair amount of white and blue down there, because it's going to have to do a fair amount of sky and the water as well. Right, so looking at this, I can see it's way too blue. It needs to be a lot more grayer. So to grey that down, I'm going to use some burnt sienna. I could add just yellow and red, but this is a bit of a shortcut because this has now already got yellow and red in it. Brown is already a mix of your three primaries, so I'm just going to add some of that in there. And that will just take away that brightness, because now you're essentially adding the opposite color, some orange. Into the mix. Okay, let's check him. Put him down there and see what does it look like. Not too shabby, hey. Still a little bit bright, so let's get a bit more burnt sienna into that. Very close. Let's touch him there. Yeah, look at that. Very, very close. I think I'm happy with that. We can use that guy. Right, so now let's take some of this. Just take whatever's left on the knife. Get most of it off, because we only need a smidgen of that in there. So put that in there and clean off the rest that's on the knife. Let's work that in there just to dull down that guy as well. Okay, do that. We can see how we're mixing this guy. I definitely need more of this color, so let's do that. So to get that was a bit of yellow, a bit of red. I got some blue in there. I think I've got the right color. It's just a little bit bright. Too much white. So a bit more yellow, a bit more red, a bit more blue. And that will just reduce the amount of white in the mix. Touch more red, touch more yellow. Okay, let's see, what does it look like now? It's a lot closer now, hey? I think it just needs, it's a little bit on the yellow side. So I'm just bringing it a bit more red again. Just a touch more crimson. Nearly there. Nearly there. Now I'm just getting the tonal value right. I think the color is good. I suspect the color is good. Because you can see that guy sort of looking like a cloud hanging in the air that we've added. Where those two look like distinct colors. This guy's now just like a... He's blending in with the clouds. He looks like that. So that's telling me I'm probably right with the color. It's just his tonal value is now too dark. So I'll just keep adding the white until I get the right tonal value. Then he should be awesome. Closer, closer. Very close, eh? That's super close to that tonal value. Look there, he's just disappearing on us almost. Yeah, great. Now we can put our palette aside again. Alrighty, so what I am going to do, because I need these colors to dry sooner. Otherwise we're going to have to wait quite a while before they dry and for us to add the next layers on top of it. So I'm just going to take some, here I've got some archival oils, odorless painting medium. You can use any painting medium or painting medium that's nice and thin. Like the liquid fine detail, also do just 2 drops in each. Just like that. In other words, it's not enough to thin down the paint really. Because we don't want to make this paint too thin. Because we do, in the end of the day, have to still stick to our fat over lean rule. It's just enough to mix into the paint and start getting that drying action that the medium gives us. Getting that going. So that in the end of the day, this painting of ours will dry within a few days or a week or so, instead of in a year or so. Alrighty, I think I'll put the picture and the palette just squeezed into the side over there. That should be fine. Now, because we're painting what's at the back, you're going to have to look past all the stuff that's in front. In other words, you're going to have to ignore all the clouds and just see what's behind the clouds. All those little details, ignore that. Just get basic colors in basic places. Remember, this stage now is all about just blocking in. Getting rid of that white of the canvas. So for that, I think I'll just use a good old bristle brush. This is just like a 1 centimeter. And let's start here with the lightest. I usually like to start with the lightest because everything is still all nice and clean. So let's make our sunsetters around here, on that, roughly on that third. So we've got our sunlight running around there somewhere. There's our sun, our setting sun. So I'm just going to work around that. So that at the end of the day, we actually never touch that at all. And I'm just going to estimate these the placing of these colors, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's all different. In a few minutes, everything is all different. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so from there, things are going to become this color. Let's just put a little bit down and see if we're good. Or if we see if we're a little bit too dark. I think it's still a little bit too dark. Let's maybe lighten him up a bit. So I won't use all of that. I'll just push that aside. Work in some more white. And I'm just scrubbing it in. All I want to do now is just get rid of that, the white of the canvas, and make sure I'm filling in the weave of the canvas as well. So here I'm looking past the clouds. There, it's going a little bit darker, so I'll use some of this one, this darker one. Or there, like that. And now gradually it's starting to go bluer. So I think before I start adding blue into this color, let's finish this. Because I am seeing some of this also out in this vicinity here. Goes over here. And then as you go up, goes up, it becomes a little bit more redder and oranger. Alright, so let's pick up some of this orangey color around this vicinity. Let's get him in. So I'm just going up to this horizon line as best I can. At this point. Alright, so there, now we can bring these two colors into each other. Here's the lighter, there's that orangey color that we mixed over there. That goes up. So this is sort of going to become half cloud, half sky, eh? Because here we get to this point, you can't quite make out what's sky and what's cloud. So that's fine, that goes up to there, and then it seems to become lighter, so I'm actually going to take a little bit of white. In fact, I think I'll put the white down. Just that white over there, so that I can get just a bit of medium into him as well. We leave that as neat paint. That'll just allow us, if we need to go a little bit lighter somewhere, we can just work that white into it, directly on the canvas. So again, just 2 drops. Yeah, let's get a little bit of white into this, because things are definitely going lighter over here. There we go, and then from up there it's starting to go bluer again. Okay, let's grab some white. And let's also just get a transition here between that and that. Now notice I'm not going into that whatsoever. Nothing at all. Okay, over there we need a bit of orange, so I'll avoid that for now. Okay, that's looking great there. Right, so in here we've got also just a little bit of this in this vicinity. Okay, here we've got a really quick little shading from there to there to there to there. So every time I change color, I'm going to just wipe my brush just on my paper towel, just to get rid of that excess amount of paint that's on the brush. Yeah, that should be fine there, like that. Great. Now let's start adding those blues in. So I'm going to just pick up just a tiny touch of this blue, tiny touch on the brush, and just work it in here. Not too much initially, just a little bit. Because what we're looking for is just a transition between this more browner version into the blues. And as we go along, we're gradually adding more and more blue. And that's giving us the shading that we need. So as far as possible, I am going to try and keep just 2 horizontal strokes, because that makes the sky look flatter. We don't want to get too much texture and stuff into the sky. Alrighty, let's take this a little bit further up over here. Just a little bit of blue in it. And now from here up, it's starting to become more of a pure blue. So now I need to get rid of most of this, these yellowy orangey colors off the brush. Because they'll make the sky now look too green. So instead I'm just adding white to our sky blue color. Here we'll mix all these colors into each other, just blend them until the one color becomes the other, without you being able to see where does the one color start and the other color stop. Just nice constant transitions from the one to the other. So now remember, that color is for right at the top in the corner. So don't go too blue too quickly. While you're watching the class, please hit the like button. I know it only takes a second, but it really helps me because it tells YouTube that this class that you're watching is worth showing to other artists and that they'll benefit from it as well. Then also leave a comment. Tell me what you thought about the class. Let me know what other classes you want me to do. And of course, if you've got questions, ask them below and I'll answer them for you. And then finally in the corner, let's use some of that neat sky color. So there's actually very little paint on the canvas at this point. Very little. Actually, in fact, there's just enough on here to cover the canvas. Alrighty. So now I'm going to get rid of the excess of the paint that's on the brush. Get it as clean as I can without washing it. Yeah, that looks pretty good, eh? Alright. And I'm going to just gently go and blend these guys into each other. And just start either at the lightest or at the darkest and gradually work your way across. So to do this, every now and again, just stand back. What you want to do is get rid of like transition lines. Can you see there? Can you see there? There's like a transition line between the one, from the one color to the next. We need to get them to be gone. So every now and again, just keep wiping your brush, get it clean. Very gentle, just the tips of the bristles are touching the canvas. Super gentle. And I'm getting that transition nice and smooth. Like I say, stand back often to get this right. Alrighty, I'm going to get a little bit more blue up over here. I just want this top here to be going blue already. You can see it there on the photograph as well. It's got blue in this area here already. Goes a blue, maybe even just a little bit more blue over there too. Just a touch. Can you start to see that nice brightness in the sun there? Quite amazing, eh? We haven't even touched that bit. Okay, let's take a look. I think I'm going to wash the brush now, because it's got blue on it, and I want to come back over here, and we can't afford to have any blues over there, because that will now kill all the brightness of those colors. So we can't afford that. So I'm washing the brush and drying him off, making sure he's nice and clean. And dry. Cool. Now I'm going to pick up some of the yellow again. Just a little bit on the brush. I just want to add a little bit more. In these areas here around the sun. I know the camera may not be picking that subtle yellows up as well as I'd like, but yeah, I think that's fine. Right, so we're going to leave this over there to dry. Don't throw your paint away. Cover it up with aluminum foil. Save them in the fridge. Then when the painting's dry, we can continue using them. So it's been about 4 days now. My painting is nice and dry. Let's go and paint those clouds. Before we continue, I want to briefly tell you about my real-time paint and draw along art classes on my website. For a very small amount, you can get access to over 400 paint and draw along tutorials where you pack out your art supplies and you follow along as I show and explain to you in step-by-step detail how to complete each project. There are classes in acrylic, oil, watercolor, pencil, soft pastel, and even lesser known mediums like pen and ink and sketchboarding. There's a link in the description below. Take a look. You'll be amazed at the awesome classes available there. Alrighty, let's continue from where we left off. I've taken the paint out of the fridge, left it for 5 minutes to stand. Now I'm going to add 2 extra drops of painting medium into each of these paints so that they are more fat than the previous layer of paint that we painted, and that way there's more oil in the layer on top and we stick to our fat over lean rule. But we need to with oil painting. Alrighty, let's go there. So to paint the clouds, I think I'll start off with just a soft filbert like this guy, and then I think we'll start here by the sun and we'll work our way outwards. So what I'm going to do is just very light little scrubs and circular motions. So some of these little clouds over here, I'll put them down with yellow, just as dabs and dashes like this. Because what's happening, even though they're darker than what they need to be, because what's happening is that the light is now coming from the back. So the back of the cloud is lit up, and that's where you get that silver lining. On the cloud. And you can see I'm going to put these guys in more or less in their place, but they're not going to be exact. I'm going to just follow roughly the designs that I see in these clouds. But in a few minutes the clouds are going to be different, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to get these guys exact or anything like that. So just use these shapes and stuff as a guide for yourself, just to give you an idea, or as inspiration. I think that's probably a better word. Just use it as inspiration for these shapes. Yeah, mostly out here. All those guys are the ones with the yellow silver lining. Out there like that. Those guys, they become pinker and pinker, and these guys become oranger and oranger as we go up over there. So I'm just going to wipe just that excess paint off the brush. No need to wash it at this stage, because we're just going to be using different variations of colors. All these colors are harmonious, they flow on from each other, so there's really no need to wash a brush in between. Right, so now I'm going to use those yellow outlines on the clouds as my guide on where to put the next guys down, and it's just literally taps. Small little taps and marks, because these clouds are quite small. So as I put them down, I make sure that I'm staying sort of inside the yellow marks that I made. Then obviously I'll start adding also individual guys that are now darker as well. Just little taps and things. Okay, this guy here is a bit more definite. So I can see he's got a bit of shading in him. He's got this color around here. And as we go up there, he's pointing more and more away from the light. It's getting darker. So I'll just put that up just to create his shape. Then we'll put darker colors over it. Okay. Now in this area over here, everything is now all, the lightest color is now this orange. So I'm going to add plenty of this over here in this area. I think that's about as far as I can go on that guy. And let's go to this side. There's lots more of this around here. And I'm not having heaps of paint on the brush, just little bits of paint. Right, here's lots. So now I've gone over to painting the little silver lining on these clouds over here. Same as what we did with the yellow previously. Nice, these clouds are becoming a bit larger here as well. So here I can almost block in this for the most part. Over there, like that. That's cool. Yeah, that guy over there. Then I do see some little touches of yellow of this orangey yellow in this cloud over here. Just little bits of it. Not too much. Oh, that there's dark. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's about as far as we can go with that guy. Cool. Wipe off the brush on the paper towel. Let's go to our next darker color. It's pretty cool seeing your clouds just gradually appear. Okay, so here I'm darkening up those previous silver linings that I put in, making sure to leave that silver lining to not lose it. Right, so now I am doing a little bit more rubbing, because now I'm getting a little bit bigger clouds. So I'm just sort of rubbing and scrubbing, but still with a bit of a circular motion, just to keep getting that like a cloud-like effect. Because what happens is, as your clouds billow, they're giving you different shapes, and these shapes aren't always, it's not smooth. It's like you get areas that are more dense, fuller, thicker, and then you get areas that are thinner, and so on. Okay, so always remember, don't fill in all the previous color. You want to leave some of that little outline still visible. Okay, let's just get that filled up. There's no sky visible there. That's like that. Okay, go back to this side. Remember, tiny amounts of paint. You can always add another layer. Yeah, I'm just going tap, tap, tap. So automatically some places are becoming fuller and some places are becoming or getting less paint. Let's have that guy drifting off over there. And now we can start adding some individual clouds of this color. So this is now the silver lining on these further away clouds. Over there. There's some more around here. Great, so look here. Now we've got 3 layers over here. So working these layers in between each other and over each other so that some of the previous guys are still visible. And now I'm also creating new layers as well. Okay. Now over here, this is silver linings. What I'm painting in now will become silver linings. Yeah, I think we can run with this color all the way out. It does seem to be a little bit more pinker, but I think we'll get away with just using this. Awesome, next color. Wipe off the brush, pick up the color. Right, so there's now not too much of this. I think let me start rather here while there's lots of paint on the brush here at the dark areas. So I'm using very gentle little taps, just super gentle taps. Cool. Now, like with these guys, I'm just going to look for those little darkest areas. Tap, 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 just to get uneven little dabs and dashes going along here. What I'll often also do with something like this is, as I put that color down like that, if you're still a little bit hard, just tap it with your finger very gently. And that just tends to gently blend it in with the previous color that's lying there. These guys are a bit small, so I'm going to go over just to a fine liner for now. Still the same little circular motion. Same taps. This is just now allowing me to add smaller amounts of paint at a time. Yeah, that's great. Maybe just tiny touch of this little, a tiny speck left of the paint on the brush. So I'm just going to add little tiny touches here and there. Just on the tops of those clouds over there. Because our light is now coming from the bottom, right? So as it comes from the bottom, it illuminates the bottom of the cloud a little bit more. there as well. Just tap in a little bit here and there just to get that extra little bit of roundness to that cloud. Here we can actually go back to the bigger brush, but anyway, I've got this one in my hand, so I'll stick with him for a while. There's also quite a large area, so you can't just have it flat, otherwise your cloud is going to be flat, so you're going to have to add just a few little marks and areas with your darker color, because that now adds that depth and roundness, the volume onto that cloud over there. Take some of this running out over there maybe. Here's a few little smaller clouds out there. Great. And here I'm working more, you've got a little area of cloud like that, and I'm working more in that central area of that cloud to give it its volume. Because here we're sort of in line with the sky. Right, as we go that way, things are becoming a little bit more grayer and more purple. And as we come down here to the bottom, the clouds are smaller because they're further away. So I'm just adding little dabs and dashes, suggestions of cumulus clouds way out over there like that. Yeah, I think for now that should be alright. Let's see, this cloud over here seems to have a little bit of a darker silver lining because it is now quite far away from the sun. So we can add a little bit of these darker guys in here as well. Why not? Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Now I'm going to go over to the grey. So that grey that I've mixed is actually quite this really dark guy for here. Way in this corner over here. So I'm pretty much filling that in like that. And then I'm just timing it so that as this paint gets less and less on the brush, we'll bring him out. So we have lighter greys coming out in this area over here, and even little bits over there. Okay, now I'm seeing just little patches where it's a bit more oranger, so I'm going to steal a bit of burnt sienna. Work that in there. Let's see, maybe just a tiny dash. Just a tiny dash, not too much. Of the crimson as well. And I'll just need to lighten him up too. In other words, it's sort of just another darker version. And in between there and there. There I touched the palette when I was just pointing to the two colors by mistake. So I got that little extra darker patch there. It's not a problem. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Let's see, where else do we need some of this? So I'll start with that in between darker color first, before we go full on grey out that side, because this here is a little bit redder. It's a bit of a redder grey. Not too much of it. I think it's just sort of in that area over there, and that's it. That's where it stops. And here's little just touches. Just little touches. In these little puffy flyaway clouds over here. Right, let's start adding some of this grey in over here. Some of that's a little bit too dark, so I'm just adding white. Just a quick little white impromptu mix over here. Into that. Just to get a bit of a lighter version. Let's check him and see if he looks better. Does seem to be better now. Maybe even a little bit more lighter. That's better, hey? Surprisingly light. Yes, just while we at it, just use touches of this in over here, because you want that these colors sort of to gradually merge out of the from the one to the other. Think of it as a shading inside the clouds. Cloud-shaped shadings. So these darker colors over here are great because they're now starting to add that nice dark contrast that you need to make that guy there look nice and bright. Okay, remember these guys over here were silver linings. So I'm filling them up and just leaving that silver lining available or visible there. Yes, just little tiny touches, the lightest little bits, because it's so that we get yellow, orange, and then purpley, and then it goes to this greyish kind of color. Yeah, that's great. I think we I may even use the go back to the Filbert here for a minute. Get some of these larger areas just blocked in over here. Okay, so these are silver linings. So we're painting over those silver linings here again. Same as over here. Okay, here I'm going to go now just a little bit darker. In fact, I'm actually seeing those clouds, they're becoming a little bit bluer. So I'm going to steal just a little bit of this guy over here into that grey. And that will blue these clouds up here a little bit. So in other words, you've got some of the sky color reflecting in the sea, and some of the sea color reflecting in the clouds. So they sort of play off of each other. Yeah, there we go. I just needed it to a little bit lighter. So make sure you don't lose all your silver lining. Just leave little bits of it shining through. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get with the bigger brush. Let's go back to the smaller one. Let's get some details there. So I'll stick with this blue. Because we were now working in this area, so now we'll gradually work our way back again. Alright, so I'm just adding a little smaller detail work in between these big guys. In other words, we put the big clouds in with a bigger brush, and now we're putting smaller clouds in between those guys. And of course cloud details. Because I can now use this brush to improve the shape. Gonna add just a little bit more medium into that. It's not quite flowing off the brush enough. I don't think you can make the paint too thin though, because then it's gonna, you're not going to be able to do blendings with it. It's just going to come off like a line in stripes. Alright, so now we gradually start working back into this purpley color over here. I think we'll add just a little bit more blue. I'm quite happy with this extra blue in there. Yeah, you can see here these like little light, fluffy, just little breakaway clouds. Just adding them in as well. Lightest little dabs and taps. So I'm just sort of letting the brush just dance over the canvas, just to get little random marks that will look similar to clouds. Let's get a bit more in over here. Okay, now the paint is almost done. I've got barely any paint left on the brush, so that's great for creating those little see-through clouds. Because you're tapping and tapping and tapping and barely anything comes off. Just a light little, almost like a color wash or a glaze. And that's perfect. That's great. Really nice. Really nice. Alrighty, let's see. We've got one or two more little clouds just disappearing out of view out here. So I'll just use that same colors what we used over there. So not quite as much blue in it. It's more of a redder. I think there we can actually go over to a big brush again. Because these are reasonably sized ones. Nice little gentle round brush strokes. I may make this even a little bit bigger than when I'm seeing it on the reference picture. There, and just one extra dude over there. Maybe one going out of the picture way up over there. It's probably going to disappear behind the frame, but it doesn't matter. It just shows that there's a little bit of cloud there. And let's just add a tiniest little idea of some form of a silver lining. So I'm just stealing a little bit of orange there. In other words, just a little bit of something, just to add a bit of depth and dimension into those clouds as well, so that they're not flat. Just the tiniest amount. Alright, so here I'm still seeing a little bit too many brush strokes. I'm just tapping this just to soften it. I want these guys to gradually flow into each other. No hard edges. Let's add another extra little bit of a... So I'm seeing 1, 2 little lines over there. Can you see them? So I'm just adding a little something to break those lines. Just an extra bit of a puff in this cloud. So just put some paint down and just tap, tap, tap over it. So what I'm doing with this brush is I'm literally just taking it and I'm just shaking it like this. So I'm going to do it. Here's your canvas. I'm just doing this. Straight up and straight down. In other words, it's not moving the paint left or right. It's just making the paint mix into the color below it, underneath there. Okay, great. I'm going to just have a quick look over each little cloud over here. I like them. They've all got lots of detail, except this guy over here. He seems to be quite flat. So I'm going to take a little bit of the lighter yellow and just add, because the sun is underneath him, just add a bit more of a silver lining underneath that guy. There we go. See, now he's got depth and dimension. He's not flat anymore. That's what we want. Our clouds must be 3D. Fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of the painting, and then we'll take a look and see what does it look like. Yeah, there we go. Pretty happy with that. Nice depth in the clouds, looking distant in, and then obviously the beautiful reflections on the water as well. So if you want to learn how to paint the rest of this painting, the link is below. You can go and take a look at the class over there. There we go. I hope you enjoyed learning to paint the clouds with me. Let me know in the comments below what else you want me to paint. I'll see you next time.